Good evening and welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hisham Tilawi. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue with the subject we started last week. Actually, the subject we started was the Palestinian state. The reason we are continuing with this week because something happened in the United States Congress yesterday. They voted to oppose a Palestinian state if the Palestinians actually declare a state. Now, we went through historical facts last week where we had shown facts on the ground that back in 1947, the United Nations partitioned Palestine between Arabs and Jews. And Jews, even though at that time, even with the influx of European Jews into Palestine, they only constituted about 30% of the population there in Palestine. With 30% of the population, the vast majority of them were only there for a few years. After World War I, they started going, because England and France very much were the victors in the First World War, and they had inherited the land that the Ottoman Empire was in control of, which Palestine was one of them. And they had very much allowed the Jews of Europe with the 1917 Balfour Declaration, where Her Majesty the Queen of England at that time promised Lord Rothschild that England will make it happen that the Jews will have a homeland in Palestine after they take it away from the Ottoman Empire. So the Jews started migrating to Palestine slowly but surely back, and right after World War II, they were 1/3 of the population there because of the Jews of Europe and because the world was very much sympathetic of the Jews because of what happened to them during World War II. The story of the Holocaust, which all of you know. Not much about. And so what happened is in 1947 the state was, or the country was partitioned. And by the way, I am under the weather, so if I have to sneeze or anything, that's because they don't have any one else that is crazy enough to get on here and actually tackle the issues that we do. So I'm going to be sniffling and sneezing as we go through with this starting now. Anyway. So this is what is happening. In 1947, they partitioned the state between the Arabs and the Jews. The Jews got 52% of the land. Actually, we do have a map of Palestine that we showed last week, and we've been showing this map for a while now. So the map of Palestine, you will see how it looked like back in 1947. Before 1947, it was nothing but Palestine where that dark green area is. Then you move over, that is the partition plan, which the dark areas are supposed to be Palestinians and the white areas are supposed to be Israelis. Well, excuse me, I forewarned you. Okay, so now Israel very much took over land that it did not belong to her in the 1947 partition plan, as we see in the third map there, where in 1967 Israel had taken over the whole thing, dark, white, everything. Well, back in 1993, Rabin, Arafat, and Clinton actually decided that they were going to have to talk about peace, and they did. And we do have a picture to kind of remind everybody with the Rabin, Arafat, and Clinton handshake in front of the White House. No, it's the other, where all three leaders with Rabin. There we go. And so this took place in 1993 when the Palestinians decided that, yes, we recognize Israel, we will sit down and talk peace. Well, the way it stands now, ladies and gentlemen, 1993, the agreement was that within 5 years there will be a Palestinian state. Well, it puts it in 1998. From 1993 to 1998, a Palestinian state was supposed to have been established or born. Well, we are in 2010 going on 2011, and a Palestinian state is not even in the horizon anywhere to speak of. As a matter of fact, if you go ahead and put that map picture back up, you will look on the last map on the right-hand side. You will see that even that green area is now very much something happened. Well, that's where Israel went in and built a wall to divide what was known as the West Bank, that green area in the middle, and they had established many settlements in the land. Now, the Palestinians, since 1993 until now, they have been negotiating and negotiating and negotiating and negotiating more and some more, and complaining that Israel is not fulfilling its agreement. Israel, on the other hand, is doing nothing but taking more land, as you can see from the maps. Well, this is how, I imagined. You can take that map off. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what is happening. You have a bully at school, that is Israel, and you have little Palestine that is not armed, is not as big as Israel. It is weak. It is the underdog. It is the one that does not have the weapons that Israel has. It does not have the army that Israel has. Israel has the upper hand. That's the bully. And then you have Palestine. Well, you have the teacher who is also afraid of the bully in the class. So I am Palestine, and the bully, I get a hamburger. He takes it away from me. I go complain to the teacher. The teacher says, well, let's sit down and talk about it, even though it's my hamburger. So while we are sitting down talking about it, the bully is eating out of that hamburger. I complain to the teacher. The teacher says, talk about it. So we go back and forth talking peace. I'm trying to get that hamburger back from the guy, and he's doing nothing but eating on that hamburger. Well, the Palestinians finally, they should have done this a long time ago, and they should have done it back in 1998 when that was the agreement, that in 1998 a Palestinian state should be born. Well, a Palestinian state was not born in 1998. And we complain, freeze the settlement, even going back to George Bush the father, when he said, there was $10 billion loan guarantees to Israel. Those of you old enough remember that, because it was a big thing. And Ishaq Shamir was the prime minister at that time. Now imagine George Bush the father, who just came out of the first Gulf War victorious with like a 98% approval rating, got defeated by Bill Clinton because he stood up to Israel and told them that the settlements are obstacles in the way of peace. That was in early 90s. He said the obstacles are, the settlements are obstacles to peace. Well, Shamir on live TV, he said he's going to get his job, and he sure did, because Israel dictates who goes in the White House and who goes in Capitol Hill and who sits in Washington. We're going to show you in a little bit why they do that and who are these people that Israel has up there. But anyway, so after we sit there and the guy, the bully, who is eating the hamburger and probably like half of it is already gone, he's talking, oh yeah, let him sit down with me and we'll talk about it. And I'm saying, would you stop eating that hamburger so we can talk about it? Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, come on, let's talk about it. So we sit down to talk about it. He's eating more and more and more. Well, that's exactly what happened to the Palestinians. In 1993, the agreement was that a Palestinian state will sneeze. Okay. Live TV. Anyway, in 1993, the agreement was that a Palestinian state will be set up on what is known as the 1967 borders, which is the West Bank that you saw there in the middle, and Gaza Strip, that is that area there to the west and south. Well, as these negotiations go, the settlements are still being built by Israel. The West Bank is being chopped off into pieces. Now, the Palestinians have, even if Israel agrees to a Palestinian state today, the Palestinians have about 9% of what was supposed to be theirs in 1947. So, you can see where the problem is for the Palestinians. So the Palestinians finally said, look, we've talked about peace. We sat down and talked about peace, and all we are seeing is our country being going away, our country being consumed by the Israeli illegal settlers, our people being killed, our homes being demolished, our olive trees being ripped out of the ground and transferred to Israel, many of them being burned. We are looking at our land being stolen so they can build roads for the settlements they are building, Israeli Jewish only roads for these settlements. Well, you have to take Palestinian lands to connect all these settlements with roads. The Palestinians, way overdue on this decision. We actually have been asking the Palestinian leadership for a long time, go ahead and announce the Palestinian independence of Israel. Go ahead and announce it. Well, let Israel, it's already in there. It's not like Israel is not in Palestine. It is in Palestine. So, go ahead, announce the decision, and see how many people around the world, and I guarantee you, you're going to have more people who will recognize Palestine more than those who recognized Israel when it was first established back in 1948, when the Israelis announced the establishment of the State of Israel. Now the establishment of, by the way, Norway is the latest one to actually jump in and support a Palestinian state. So the momentum is there, and I think the Palestinians should not cave under any pressure, no matter what. Because now Congress of the United States is saying, well, you know what, we need to stop this little change that they are giving the Palestinians if they continue with this unilateral declaration of a statehood. I never seen a country to actually get an agreement from its enemy, from its occupier, to agree to its independence. You know, Britain did not agree to the American independence by sitting down and negotiating a settlement on the table. People had to die. The American Revolution had to take place, and they had to take matters into their own hands. No one, occupiers will not give you a state. You have to take the state yourself. And that's exactly what the Palestinians, the unarmed Palestinians, are doing. Now, well, some people around the United States did not like the news that the Palestinians are actually talking about an independent state. Well, guess what? Yesterday, a congressional resolution, yes, believe it or not, the United States Congress got into this, because you know what? Once this momentum gets out there and people start talking about it, because the end of hostilities, peace will only come to the Middle East and to the Holy Land if the Palestinian people, the overdue rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination and liberation and independence, that's when we will have peace in this world. It is way overdue. It is the longest oppressed people in the world over 60 years now, 62 years. Well, yesterday they voted, Congress voted on resolution, House Resolution 1734, which opposes declaration of a Palestinian state. Howard Berman is the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee from California, Democrat. And by the way, when it comes, they only bicker around when there is a domestic issue. But when it comes to Israel, they all get together because Israel is paying for every one of them. Healthcare, you're going to see them going down party lines and voting down party lines because that's, Social Security, healthcare, the resolutions, the stimulus, this and that. But to save the world, no, they go with what Israel wants. And so that's why you will find Republicans and Democrats on the same resolutions. That's very much probably one of the only times that you are going to see as many Republicans as many Democrats on a resolution is when it has to do with Israel, because everybody will be fighting to get his name on that resolution, because that means he's got probably about another $15,000-$20,000 check coming in the mail if he does that. So this resolution opposes declaration of a Palestinian state, and it read, the House this is what it read. Now, one of the sponsors of this is Ileana Ross Litnin from Florida. She is a Republican from Florida. She's Jewish. She's probably more Israeli than American. Here she is. And, Howard Berman and all of these Israeli firsters that we have in Congress, like Gary Ackerman, Shelley Berkeley, Gus Biliarkis, Vern Buchanan, Dan Burton, Jim Costa, Theodore Ditch, all these, Peter King, Ron Klein, Tom McClintock, Gerald Nadler, Mike Pence, Mike Rogers, Thomas Rooney, Ileana Ross, Stephen Rothman. All these are sponsors for this resolution. And very much the resolution reads that it is reaffirming congressional opposition to the unilateral declaration of a Palestinian state and for other purposes. Reaffirming congressional opposition to unilateral declaration of Palestinian state and for other purposes, whereas a true and lasting peace between Israel and the Palestinians can only be achieved through direct negotiations between the parties. Well, the Palestinians agreed. Now, believe me, it cannot be with war, because the Palestinians cannot get into war with the Israelis. They don't even have, and we're going to show you what the Palestinians have. Go ahead and throw that picture just to show you the force of the Palestinians compared to the force of the Israelis with some pictures. It is little children throwing rocks at Israeli tanks. That's what they have. You have young men confronting the might of the Israeli military. So war between Israel and the Palestinians, it's out of the question. Because we've seen what Israel did in Gaza a couple of years back. And incidentally, it's the anniversary of that. The second anniversary is we are going through right now. You've seen what Israel can do, and Israel is willing to kill. These people show no mercy to anyone. Not children, not old people, not women, anyone. These people are willing to kill anyone on that land. They want everyone who is not Jewish to move. This woman lost her house, was destroyed. Many Palestinian families, it was cold last week in Palestine. Many Palestinian families are living in tents on top of the rubble of their homes. So war is out of the question. The only thing Palestinians have right now is the solidarity of the people of the world. And many people in the world are coming around to understand because, see, the media kept this. Israel, just like you saw what Israelis, the difference between between what Israel has and what the Palestinians have, it's also the same thing when it comes to the media. Israel has the big boys. Got Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, all of these. They control them. They influence them. They are in control. So when it comes to the media, to the war, and to the media war, Israel has probably more than what it does when it comes to the difference. So Israel is on top politically, where they got the United States Congress behind them. Economically, they got all these rich people in New York, the Rothschilds and the JP Morgans and all of them. We're not going to name them. You know who they are. So they got the money. And then so what we are saying here, the Palestinians are beginning to get their story out. And once their story is out to many people will support their state. And that is the momentum that is going on right now. Europeans are on board. Many people in Europe understand that. The last people on earth who don't know this yet is the people in the United States. You're still in the dark when it comes to the Palestinians and the Israelis. You're still in the dark because this is where Israel's control is. Control the media, control the government, control banking, control the economy, control you. And that's the problem that the Palestinians have right now, because I guarantee you, once the Palestinians announce independence from Israel, the first one to veto it will be the United States. Not because Obama administration or the Obama administration don't want to see a Palestinian state, but because they cannot do otherwise. You see, George Bush, he said he has a, what do you call that? A vision of two-state solutions. Well, yeah, the only thing is the two states now, you have two Palestinian states. You have Gaza on one side and the West Bank on another side. That's what Israel wants. That's an Israeli-Jewish plot that the Palestinians actually fell into. Well, Israel will continue doing this. Don't believe them when they say, let's sit down and talk, because why talk? They got everything. They don't want to give you anything. And they want to just continue. Let's sit down and talk about peace. And at the same time, they are taking more and more. Listen, a couple of weeks ago, Obama, he knew, look, it's getting right there at the end. Let's sit down and finish this thing once and for all. Freeze settlements for 90 days. Because in Obama's mind, that within these 90 days, he will have a solution to the problem. He even tried to bribe the Israelis with $35 billion worth of stuff. They said no. They wanted more. They're going to get more from the Obama administration, and they're still not going to give the Palestinians independence. Why give them when they are holding the land? Just like the bully at school who's holding the cheeseburger and he's eating it. It's not like he's holding it and saying, let's talk about it. No. You see, if Israel it is holding the West Bank, but if we are going to talk about the West Bank, then stop building settlements. If you want to talk about peace, because that's the piece of land that is allocated to have a Palestinian state. If you keep eating that cheeseburger, nothing is going to be left to talk about. And that's what Israel is counting on. They have been since 1993 doing nothing but signing agreements and not going through with them. Then we say, okay, let's come and talk. No preconditions. Well, what about the stuff that we signed a couple of years ago? No, let's start from the beginning. All of them did that. Sharon, Olmert, everybody, Ehud Barak, and now Netanyahu. It said, no preconditions. What are you talking about, no preconditions? What about all these years? Since 1993, we have been doing nothing but negotiating. Now, we have a couple of videos that we go on to show. The first one is with Howard Berman. He is the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, actually talking to, it's a Jewish organization. It's called the American for Peace, but actually it's more of a Jewish organization. That's one of the organizations that they talk about peace, but really just camouflaging that Israel wants peace, but Israel does not want peace. Israel wants peace. Freeze the darn thing. Freeze the settlements. Let's talk about that land right now before you go and bring your people on that land. Let's play the first video where you will see Howard Berman actually saying that a Palestinian state should be there. See, they all talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. Let's play.
Had a warm and productive relationship for years. I admire and I share your firm commitment to peace, even on those occasions, since it's been mentioned 4 times, that we sometimes disagree about it. Furthermore, APN is among the most reliable and valuable sources of information about the peace process, especially regarding Israeli settlements in the West Bank. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've spent in my office or poring over maps with the knowledgeable and articulate policy director of APM, Lara Friedman, who was mentioned earlier, as well as the Jerusalem expert, non-parallel Danny Seidemann, who has frequently accompanied her. Throughout my nearly 3 decades in Congress, and now as chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, I have been preoccupied with issues involving Israel's security and Middle East peace. I made my first congressional trip to Israel in 1983. It was then that I first began to discern the primary problem Israel would have to face if it maintained its hold on the West Bank and Gaza. Either it would eventually have to rule over a disenfranchised Palestinian majority, or if it enfranchised the Palestinians, Israel would eventually cease to be a Jewish homeland. Call it the democracy-demography problem. I knew I wanted Israel as a Jewish homeland to be a democracy. That was 1983. I wasn't probably totally convinced at that immediate moment that the answer was Palestinian statehood. I'm not sure I knew what the answer was. But over the years, as I've made more trips to Israel and the region, I've discovered 2 things. First, I learned that there are indeed many Palestinians who are prepared to accept Israel and who genuinely believe in coexistence. Second, I discovered the immense toll the occupation was taking on Israel. Like Ariel Sharon, I came to believe, and although I came to it earlier than he did, and I quote from him here, to hold 3.5 million Palestinians under occupation, I believe that is a terrible thing for Israel and for the Palestinians. It cannot continue endlessly. Do you want to stay forever in Jenin and Nablus and Ramallah and Bethlehem? I don't think that's right. Over the years,
Okay, so he agrees that Israel should not be, the occupation of Palestine should end by the Israelis. He does not think that Israel should be in Jenin and Nablus and Bethlehem. These are Palestinian cities. He agrees that the 3.5 million Palestinians should be free, should be independent. Talk is cheap. What he did yesterday in his committee and introduced that resolution to actually go against with what he is saying. If he believed that Palestine should be liberated, should be an independent Palestine, the Palestinian people should be a liberated people, that's what he said. But that's not what he did. And what counts, ladies and gentlemen, not what you say, but what you do. Now, what else he's doing for Israel? Not just this, because you see, this is the real thing. He can get on American for Peace and say all that BS that he wanted, what he believes in is one thing. But this is what counts. When you have a political decision made to stop the aspiration of the Palestinian people from pursuing a statehood and independence and having self-determination for whatever they want their country to be. Now, just to show you what Israel is getting from the United States as far as support. And Israel, every time you hear American leaders talking, about the peace, they will say, yeah, Palestinians, relieve the suffering and lift the suffering of the Palestinian people. But oh no, the Israel security, we need to make sure that Israel is secure. Secure by who? Who's Israel? By the Palestinians? By the unarmed Palestinians? Israel is secured by a missile, an American and European NATO missile defense system that is out of this world, and it really is out of this world. Let's play the second video just to show you what these people in Congress, and you will see Congressman Ilyana in there too, Ilyana and Howard Berman. You will see what else they're doing for Israel. Let's go.
Go read.
Substitute amendment to H.R. 2410 offered by Mr. Berman to the amendment offered by Mr. Burton. Strike Section 1202 and insert the following. Section 1202, support to Israel for missile defense.
The amendment should be considered as read without objection, and I recognize myself on behalf of my substitute amendment. Like the gentleman, I am a very strong supporter of a variety of different programs that the United States is working with the government of Israel in terms of dealing with short, intermediate, and longer-range missile defense. The substitute only changes two items. One, it removes language which would otherwise bring in the jurisdiction of other committees and conforms it to the jurisdiction of the committee. And secondly, it eliminates reference to NATO, and because the words deployment as soon as is technologically possible when dealing with NATO can be viewed as, I interpret that as a possible mandate on us to deploy something with which a little bit of negotiations, for instance, in the context of what we're planning to do in Poland and the Czech Republic vis-a-vis Iran's missile threat, some discussions and negotiations with other parties, in this particular case the Russians, can create a much broader base of support for effective missile defense. And I interpret your language as literally offered, and the inclusion of the NATO countries to perhaps limit and constrain the ability to do that. The substitute speaks to the issues that you addressed as you debated on behalf of your amendment.
Would yield.
I'd be happy to yield.
Thank you, and I thank you for this substitute amendment to the Burton amendment, and I congratulate Mr. Burton for always being an outspoken advocate for maintaining strong, positive ties with our greatest democratic ally in the Middle East, Israel, and doing everything that we can to ensure that she will always have the qualitative military edge and get the protection that she needs. And this missile defense issue is of great importance. So I'm sure that Mr. Burton understands the corrections to his amendment that gets to the very heart of what Mr. Burton seeks to do.
Thank you for so eloquently stating my position. I agree.
And I agree with your eloquent statement of his position. And if we can go to the vote on the substitute amendment.
Okay. Well, see, they're going to take care of Israel before they take care of the United States. You know, what she said, to keep the qualitative edge. What? The Palestinians don't have anything. Israel has the F-35s, they got the F-22s, they got the F-16s and 18s, they got the tanks, they got the missiles, they got the submarines, they got everything you can imagine. The Palestinians don't have anything. Okay? So, Israel has all these cronies. You know, Israel has done everything in its power to destroy this country. They spied on the United States. You know, Eliana gets up there and she goes, our greatest ally? Israel is not an ally. Israel is an occupier in the United States. These people now, some of them are doing it through conviction because they are Israelis first. Like Eliana, like Joe Lieberman. Others, they cater to Israel because through AIPAC, Israel is putting these people in power. If you want to be in power, you better come and kiss our butts. That way, you will be in power. And they are. They are. Now, we're going to show you a little clip just to show what the Israelis have. And then when we come back, we'll show you some of the old pictures what the Palestinians have. Let's do this third video and then we'll come back. That's good enough. Now go ahead and put picture of those Palestinian children throwing rocks at Israeli tanks. Now imagine, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen all the guns and all the weapons, and you've seen them in action 2 years ago in Gaza. Now, are you telling me that this big tank is saying that he does not want to give this little boy peace unless this little boy sits down with him on the table to discuss peace? What can you possibly discuss with these people with that kind of weapons that they have? What kind of peace negotiations? You know, this morning coming to work, actually, I saw a car in front of me with an African American woman driving. And normally African Americans, believe it or not, I'm not saying anything that is not statistically proven. African Americans majority of African Americans are with the Palestinians on this deal because they felt oppression, they went through oppression, and they understand what it means to be oppressed. But this little young lady, she had 2 bumper stickers, flag of Israel, flag of the United States, with 2 shaking hands in there, and it said, "Israel, you're not alone." And you know, I've seen that, and that's what Israel actually is counting on. It's not that they just got our politicians, but also they got our media, and they are in our churches, because I've heard it. You know, I took a trip out of state this past weekend, and believe it or not, I was listening to church radio, and you will be surprised, the airwaves. It's not just the Rush Limbaughs that we have to worry about and the Sean Hannitys, where they are giving you nothing but lies about the Palestinians and how good Israel is because they are part of the same thing. But even church broadcasts. And I remembered a few years back a young lady who came in and she was saying that, oh yeah, we need to stand up with Israel because God said so. And you know, that is really, it's heart-aching to hear people, you know, those people, those non-suspecting people who go to church and, you know, they want to worship God and they believe in God's words. They believe in the Bible. They believe in the good things that God had to offer. And they believe in the lies when they tell them that you need to stand up with Israel, that those are God's people. That's in the Bible. Israel that was established back in 1948, that's not the Israel in the Bible. That has nothing to do with the Bible. They called it that for a reason. They called it that so they can get to this point with you that you think we need to support those people because God said so. God did not say so. God did not say that you kill women and children. God did not say. God said help. Help the oppressed. Help the poor. Help the needy. Help the weak. Help those who are afraid. Help those who want to live. And that's the Palestinians. The unarmed Palestinians. God will never be a God of oppression. God will never be that kind of God that they are in some churches, not all churches, telling you that God said to love Israel. Israel in the Bible is not Israel that you see today. Israel in the Bible is Jacob. That's who Israel is. There are 7 different meanings to Israel. Israel, the people at that time, not those Europeans who came from Europe and stole somebody else's land. God will not, thou shalt not steal. That was one of the first commandments that he said. He will not allow other people to go using his name, lying to you. Next time you go to church and you have a pastor who says we need to love that state of Israel, you need to stand up and say, That is not Israel in the Bible, Mr. Pastor. That is not Israel in the Bible. God will never be on the side of those people who are oppressing other people, who are killing other people, killing children. God will not go for that. So next time your pastor says, love that Israel, tell him you're Jesus. And you're commanding him to stop that BS he's feeding you. Because that's all it is. All right, let's go to the phones. We have Ramsey on line 1. Ramsey, welcome to the program.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I just want to tell you something. You've been hitting the nail right on the head since your program started. And so also, if you look at the, and I'm sure you heard of this, the, in the last week, Hillary Clinton was talking about the resolution that the Congress is making, and she said this at the Saban forum, and and of course you know who Saban is.
Of course.
Haim Saban. He's
Haim Saban, yes.
Bill Gates of the lobby.
Right.
And then also you have to keep in mind that the state of Israel is not making hell in the West Bank, but also for the Palestinians in Israel, who are the Israeli Arabs, as known.
Of course. Of course. It's one of the most racist countries in the world. You know, we keep calling it, our corrupt politicians keep calling it a democracy. It is not a democracy because people, the Arab, the Palestinians who live inside of Israel, what is known now as Israel, which was created back in 1948, you can see it is worse than the United States 100 years ago for the blacks. That's how bad it is for the Palestinians in Israel. Yes.
Yes, and then I think what's going to happen is history is going to repeat itself. The United States is going to cut funding again, just like they did with Hamas.
Who are you talking about, the United States?
Yes.
You know what? Let me tell you something. The Palestinians should not back off. Even if the United States is going to cut funding, let them cut funding. Let them do it. Okay? Because, let me tell you something. We don't want that money if it means that we will be oppressed and that the Palestinian people will be occupied for the rest of their lives while they're seeing their land going away to illegal Israeli settlers, while they're seeing their children being killed and murdered by these people. No, you can keep your money. Take that money and shove it. We don't want it.
No, sir, I'm not saying we should cut the funding. No. But I'm not saying that the Palestinians should back off. I totally agree with you that they should keep on doing what they're doing and get the support of the UN and hopefully the European Union.
Many people in the European Union, many countries in the European Union will jump on board, and the people of Europe, now if we can create the momentum in the United States, there will be a Palestinian state. Just as it was the responsibility of the American people, the American taxpayers, to keep these people, the Palestinians, oppressed with the billions of dollars that we are shipping there to Israel to keep that occupation. The American people also can be the ones to lift that oppression and lift that occupation if they get involved in this. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. Last night or yesterday, the vote on House Resolution 1734, it was basically there was no vote. It was just a voice vote. And, the yeas were all over the place. There was no nays because I guess it was more of a secret vote. So those who did not say yay, they did not say nay either. And that's how that resolution passed, which is to oppose a declaration, which is to set the stage for the Obama, telling them that the people of the United States want you to veto any declaration any declaration of independence by the Palestinians. But I think the American people should beat these people at their own game. They should call their congressmen and senators and say, make sure that a Palestinian state is born. Make sure these people receive and get their independence, just as the Americans got their independence from England. Make this, the American people have, and I say it, and I say it again, and I will say it because that is the truth. If it wasn't for Americans' taxpayer, if it wasn't for the money that they're taking away, the hard-earned money that our government is taking away from you and sending to Israel, Israel would not be able to oppress the Palestinian people. It is time that you stand up and make it right. Lift oppression off these people. Thank you, Ramzi. You have anything else?
Yes, I was going to say that if anybody opposed that resolution, of course, will be called anti-Semite, and you can kiss goodbye to his career.
They're going to have to stand up. The anti-Semite or not, they can't use that weapon. Look, that's an old weapon. The thing is, we don't have men or women who can stand up in Congress. The only men and women we have that can stand up are those people on the streets. Create the momentum on the streets, then those cronies and those cowards in Washington who said yay yesterday to this resolution will be either forced out or liberate the Palestinian people. Thank you, Ramzi. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that is the fact. The fact is, see, Obama tried. He tried, but he gave up. He finally said, you know what? I can't do it. I cannot even have my own decision when it comes to Israel. You know why? Because even if he wants to, they're going to put pressure on his party, and they did. You started having Democrats having meetings and sending, secret meetings with Obama, telling him, whoa, you cannot keep going down this road. You cannot put pressure on Israel to free settlements. You cannot help the Palestinians. Forget about what you said in Cairo. Forget about all the promises. When the United States president stands up and speaks, he's speaking for all of us here in the United States. He's speaking for 320 or whatever we have here, millions of people. He's not only speaking for himself. And he said the United States is going to see to it that these people, the Israelis and the Palestinians, sit down on the same table and talk. Well, the Israelis don't want to talk. If you listen to the media, you think the Palestinians don't want to. But look at the map we showed you. Since 1993, the Palestinians have been negotiating and at the same time watching their land go down the drain. Watching their land getting less and less, watching their land being divided and chopped up into many pieces, watching their children being killed by Israel. At the same time, Israel saying, oh, let's sit down and talk about peace. No more. No more. The Palestinian leadership had given in and compromised. Every time they compromise, the Palestinians lose. Every time they sit down and talk, the Palestinians lose. There is nothing left to lose. Nothing, absolutely nothing left to lose. If this leadership backs off, it needs to go. If the Palestinian leadership backs off this decision, this is a decision of no return. No matter what happens, even if Israel wants to send the might of its army back into these Palestinian cities, let them go there. Let them occupy the whole land. We don't want a Palestinian authority under occupation. We want a Palestinian government under a liberated Palestine. If we cannot have that, we don't want anything else. The Palestinian people finally realizing that if we don't do it now, it's not going to happen. And I congratulate the leadership, the Palestinian leadership, and I congratulate everyone in that leadership who is standing up and saying, no more negotiations without those settlements being frozen completely, not just freezing them. Stop it. It's not your land. If you want to talk peace about this, then let's talk peace. Don't tell me you're talking peace and at the same time you are eating my cheeseburger. It's not going to happen like that. You're consuming it. So, for the Palestinian leadership, they need to stick to it. It doesn't matter what happens. Let the United States cut off funds. Hey, we will suffer. It's not going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but you will be a liberated people one day if you do that. That's it for us. Good night. See you next Thursday.